Hello guys, welcome to the video. In this one, I want to talk about AI navigation. And before we begin, I want to say that we're going to use a navigation system from Unity, which is called NavMesh. I think it will work very well for this project. And we need a navigation system because we're going to have multiple enemies on the level. So it's not only about avoiding the corners, because making avoidance of the corners would be very easy if you do a custom script, but also there are going to be multiple enemies on the level. And we need to be sure enemies are aware of another enemies on the level and they can avoid them when they move, because some enemy is going to be faster than other enemy. Okay, so first of all, we need to install navigation system. Let's go to Window, Package Manager, and over here we just need to choose Unity Registry, and then in the search field we're going to type nav. And there it is, AI navigation. Let's install it. Very nice, it is done. Now, what is there? Okay, it is Unity's error. It's not that important, we can just clear it. Now, to make navigation work, first of all, we need to tell the navigation what is a navigation surface. So later on, enemies can understand where they can move and where they cannot move. Let's go to the level ground, and we're gonna click Add Component, and then we're gonna type nav mesh, and we're gonna choose nav mesh surface. This component can be placed on any game object, but I think it's pretty logical if we place it on the parent of road and field holders. So even now, if you click the bake button, you're gonna bake the area, and now whatever is inside of this blue area, enemy can consider as a area where it can move. And we need to make it work in a way that enemy can move only on the road, but not on the field. And that's what we're gonna do. You also should know that enemy can move on this area only when it has an agent component. Over here we can type agent and add navmesh agent component. We're gonna do it later on. I just want you to know that when I'm saying agent, it means I'm talking about any object that has agent component on it, and because it has agent component on it, it can move on the navmesh area. Now let's talk about navmesh surface itself. First of all, we want to set up agent type. So we're gonna go over here and click Open Agent Settings. We're gonna drag this window over here so we don't lose it. And here we can do some settings. These are the settings that navmesh surface will consider as expected behavior on this navmesh surface. So let's say name will be enemy, and let's say that radius of a common enemy on the surface should be somewhat of maybe 1.5 or something like that, because area over here is not that big on the road itself. Later on, we're gonna have wider roads, but now let's set up this for small enemies. Now, the height is important when you have a really, 3D vertical maps. We're gonna have bridges and we're gonna have slopes, but they're not gonna be that high. And also we need to be sure that enemy can pass below that bridge. So let's reduce height to 0.5 by default. Then we need to set the step height. First of all, step height should be lower than the height of agent itself. And step height defines how agent can move vertically. If step height is 0, it cannot move vertically at all. But we need this agent to be able to move vertically, because later on, again, we're going to have slopes. I'm going to show you a prototype real quick so you can understand what I'm talking about. You can see we have slopes like that, right? Bridge and slope. So agent's supposed to be able to move vertically. That's why we still need to have some step height over here. Maybe let's do 0.35 for now, and let's see how it works out later. The max slope defines what is a maximum slope for the movement. Let's leave it at 45 right now. Drop height and jump distance is important when you have gaps between navmesh. Like for example, there is a cliff and there is a river and cliff again. I know, I hope this is a good example. Then we can define if agent can jump from one place to another, but we're not gonna have this in this game, so we're gonna keep it at 0. Now let's go back to inspector. And before we bake anything, we also need to add a layer for this NavMesh surface. Because we don't want it to work on every surface, we want it to work only on the road surface. So we're gonna go to layer over here. We're gonna click add layer. And in field number 6, I'm gonna type road. Now we're gonna go to road holder, take all of the tiles that is road, and we're gonna change layer to road like that. Then we can go back to level ground. We need to open object collection, and we need to change include layer from everything to road. To do that, we need to click nothing first, so it is empty, and then we're gonna choose road like that. Now we can click bake, and phew, magic is going to happen. Now we have a road mesh. If yours looks a bit different, make sure you have same values as I do over here and over here on the navigation settings of the agent. Okay, simple as that. Now, agent that is on any game object can consider this blue area where it can move. Okay? Very nice. Now, let's test this out with something simple, and then we're gonna improve the system in the next video, because I want to keep this one short. We're gonna make a script, and if you're using a newer Unity version like 2023, which is not LTS yet, so I'm not gonna use it for now, it must say something like create monobehavior, which essentially does the same thing. It creates a script. Let's create C# script, and I'm gonna name it as enemy. Just that. Now let's select enemy basic, and let's put script on the top. Also, we need to add component of a NavMesh agent. If you have a little bit of a confusion about components, like what does it mean component, what is inspector, and so on, you can, again, sorry for reminding that, but you can go to the crash course section, and there I have a video that explains it very well. Now, over here, these agent settings having default values, and we need to adjust them so it matches the visuals of the enemy we have. Firstly, we want to reduce the height to something like 25. And these are the personal settings for this agent. And over here on the navigation, we did set expected settings on the surface. So they can be different, it's fine. Now for the radius, let's do 25 as well. For the height, I'm pretty much satisfied, maybe a bit higher, like 0.3, 0.35. Yeah, let's do 0.35, I like it. Lastly, there are some settings over here, but I think we can discuss them once we see how it works. What we need to do next is something very simple. We need to define a final destination. For that, we can probably make a 3D cube. Let's call it a waypoint. I'm gonna make it smaller, much smaller, something like 0.1 or 0.15. And let's move it to the end of the level over here. You can press F to focus on it and then place it over here. Yes, 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 very good. It is a bit difficult to notice, so maybe let's give it some shiny material so we can always see it. I'm going to choose waypoint and I'm going to put emission on it, like that. Now it is shiny, but not that much, because we did tweak the threshold on the bloom over here. To make it shiny like we want, also I don't really see it because of the background. Maybe let's give it a blue emission. Yeah, so to make it really shiny, we can go to the material of the emission and we can increase intensity over here. I'm going to explain emission more later on. For now, just click plus over here so it's a bit more noticeable. Okay, you choose the value that you want. I'm going to do 3. Okay, there is a cube. And also now this little bot will have shiny window inside of it, which is really, really cool. Now back to the movement. We have a waypoint that should be a final destination, and we have script of the enemy on the enemy basic. Let me close this one, and then let me go to the enemy script. Inside of the script, we need to get access to this component of the agent to make it move. And also we need to get access to the waypoint to know what is a final destination. Luckily for us, it is very easy to do. I'm gonna do serialize field, private transform, waypoint. It's gonna be just a waypoint that we have. And also we need to get component of the agent. And we can just do private nav mesh agent. We can name it as agent, and then to get this component, we can just open an awake method. So we don't have to make a field that is visible in the inspector. We can just make a private variable, and then we can type agent equals to get component of a nav mesh agent. And this will search for the components on the same game object as this script is. And if there is such component, just like we have over here, then it will assign it to this variable of the agent, which is the same one over here. And now by typing agent somewhere, we're going to get access to the component on the enemy itself. Now in the awake, I'm going to get component, and then I want to open the start method, and I want to type agent set destination of waypoint dot position. So first of all, awake is called before start, and it's always a good idea to get components in the awake and then use them in the start. In this way, it's very difficult to make a mistake because you're gonna get all of the components in the awake every time on all of the scripts. It is always a good idea to get component before you use it. And in this course, I'm gonna keep get components in the awake and then use them in the start. For now, it's not that important because we just have one script, but once we have relationship between scripts, it is always better to do it like that. Also, when you set destination on the agent, it requires a vector3 value. And as you can see, we get it by typing waypoint.position, which returns vector3. Okay, let's save it. Let's go back to Unity. Now we need to assign waypoint over here, and I want to go to the game window and choose play unfocused. So it will not interrupt me when I go to play mode, because for now I'll see everything in the scene view. Now let's go to play mode and let's see what is going to happen. An enemy moves to the waypoint. It's a bit slow, it's a bit awkward, but it's okay. It does what we need it to do. Cool, right? Very cool. Now, there are some settings that we should talk about. We have speed of the agent, the maximum movement speed when following the path. Then there is an angular speed, which controls the rotation when enemy moves. Then there is acceleration that, as you can guess, gives the maximum acceleration when agent tries to follow the path. There is a stopping distance, which defines when agent should stop before it reaches the destination. So now if we set it to maybe 3, then it will stop within distance of 3 before it reaches the final point. Let's see this. And it stopped. And also there is an auto braking, which defines if agent should slow down before it reaches the destination. And we're gonna control these parameters a bit more in the next video. As of now, we're gonna keep them as they are. And yeah, that's it for now, I guess. Thank you so much for paying attention, and I'll see you in the next video.